Hey guys, tonight we're not riding into the Hollywood sunset with a clean-shaven cowboy who looks like he just walked out of a Marlboro ad. Nope, we're diving headfirst into the dusty, dangerous, and occasionally downright disgusting life of real cowboys in the Wild West. Forget silver spurs that gleam in the moonlight and saloon girls batting their eyelashes. The truth was closer to lice-infested bedrolls, endless beans, and the constant possibility of being trampled into cowboy-flavored pancake mix during a stampede. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't be shy. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. I always love seeing who's riding along with us from across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe put on a fan for that soft background hum, and saddle up, partner, because tonight's trail ride is going to be long and dusty. We're heading into a world where 6 hours of broken sleep was a luxury, where your best friend was your horse, and where hygiene was less of a routine and more of a rumor. Cowboys weren't mythical heroes. They were overworked young men with dirty shirts, sunburned faces, and just enough courage or stupidity to charge headlong into chaos when thousands of cattle suddenly decided to run for their lives. So grab your hat, cinch your saddle, and hold on tight, because this is what it was really like to be a cowboy in the Wild West. Yeehaw! Part 1. Welcome to Cowboy Hell. If Hollywood sold you on cowboys being rugged heroes with shiny boots, perfect teeth, and a tumbleweed blowing romantically behind them, let me ruin your fantasy right now. Real cowboys lived a life that was about 90% dirt, 9% diarrhea, and 1% yeehaw. Being a cowboy in the 1800s was basically the Old West version of Survivor, except no one won $1 million and half the contestants died of cholera before episode 2. Picture it. 6 hours of sleep on a lice-ridden bedroll that smelled like someone microwaved old socks, followed by a full day of dodging rattlesnakes, stampedes, and the occasional bandit who thought your horse looked sexy. That's right, your horse. Because in cowboy land, stealing a horse wasn't grand theft auto. It was instant noose around your neck. Horses were lifelines. Lose your horse, and you might as well start digging your own grave with a tin cup. Cowboys treated their steeds like Tinder dates they actually wanted to marry. Brushed them, fed them, whispered sweet nothings, and hoped they wouldn't bolt during a stampede. And hygiene? Forget it. Bathing was as rare as rain in the desert. Most cowboys only washed when they rolled into the next town. And even then it was less spa day and more please scrub the dysentery off me. Dirt was a permanent accessory, like eyeliner for emo kids, except you couldn't wash it off. And don't imagine these boys as quiet, stoic John Wayne types either. Cowboys had their own slang so bizarre it sounded like Shakespeare and a drunk parrot co-wrote it. Instead of "I'm sick," you'd say, "I got the blam jam backdoor trots." Instead of "get lost," it was "go boil your shirt." Basically, cowboys invented memes before memes existed, just with more dust and way worse digestive issues. So if you thought being a cowboy was glamorous, congratulations. You've just been conned harder than a saloon drunk at a poker table. Part 2. Dress code. Dirt chic. Alright, let's talk fashion. Because while modern influencers worry about matching accessories, cowboys only had one rule. If your clothes looked clean, you weren't doing your job. First, the pants. Blue jeans or California trousers. They weren't Levi's commercials with perfect stitching and models smoldering at the camera. These bad boys were built to withstand weeks of sweat, dust, and mysterious stains that might be cow poop or might be beans. You didn't ask. Then the shirt, something tough enough to last months without ripping. Spoiler alert, it still ripped, usually right after you told someone it wouldn't. Then came the chaps. Leather leg protectors that screamed, "Yes, I wrestle cows for a living and sometimes lose." They shielded you from thorn bushes, rattlesnakes, and the occasional cactus that decided to hug your thighs. Cowboys called them bat wings, which sounds badass until you realize they were just cowhide yoga pants. Add a bandana, not because it looked cool, though it did, but because you needed something to keep from choking on the 5 pounds of dust clogging your throat every 10 minutes. The hat? Essential. A Stetson wide enough to double as a dinner plate, or, if you were fancy, a sombrero that blocked the sun like a personal solar eclipse. Without it, your scalp fried faster than bacon on a campfire. Finally, the boots. These weren't mall cowboy boots that suburban dads wear to barbecues. No, these were knee-high leather fortresses. Narrow toes slid into stirrups. Hard heels locked your feet in. Spurs clinked on the back, so you could either prod your horse forward or dramatically announce yourself like a villain entering stage left. Put it all together and you had the cowboy look. Equal parts rugged, filthy, and terrifying. And here's the kicker: if you showed up in brand new gear, everyone knew you were a poser. Real cowboys broke their clothes in with dust, sweat, and the occasional bloodstain. If you smelled nice, you were probably about to get punched. Part 3: guns, beans, and stampedes. Now, you can't talk about cowboys without talking about their two greatest enemies: bad beans and stampedes. Cowboys carried guns. Sure, Hollywood made it seem like every 5 minutes they were dueling at high noon. In reality, guns were less for drama and more for survival. You used your sidearm or rifle to scare off coyotes, fend off bandits, or, most importantly, stop the herd from going full panic mode. See, stampedes were the cowboys' nightmare fuel. Imagine thousands of pounds of beef deciding, for no reason at all, to sprint like Olympic athletes. What triggered it? Could be thunder. Could be a rattlesnake. Could be somebody farting too loud. Whatever the cause, once it started, it was chaos. Horses went down. Riders went down. And if you were in the wrong place, congratulations, you just got flattened into human jerky. Cowboys had to be insanely brave or insane, period, to ride ahead of a stampede and steer it under control. Some succeeded. Others ended up like the poor soul in 1876 who got mashed flat along with his horse. Nature didn't mess around. And food? Well, let's just say Michelin-starred dining wasn't a thing. Meals came from the chuck wagon and consisted of beef, bacon, beans, bread, and coffee. That's it. Twice a day, every day. It was the Old West version of meal prep, except if you ate too much, you risked getting diarrhea on horseback. Not exactly 5-star comfort. So yeah, cowboys had guns, but they feared beans more. Part 4: life on the trail. Cowboying wasn't a solo act. Drives required teamwork. 8 to 12 men moving 3,000 cattle, all led by a trail boss who decided where to camp and how far to push the herd. Second in command? The segundo. And let's not forget the cook. The grumpy MVP of the trail who fed you, scolded you, and sometimes saved your life by making coffee strong enough to wake the dead. Traveling alone in the Wild West was basically suicide. Native raids, bandits, wild animals, and just plain bad luck could take you out before lunch. Lone cowboys weren't romantic heroes. They were either desperate, crazy, or about to be dead. Tonight, the men circled around campfires, swapping dirty jokes, playing fiddles or harmonicas, and occasionally singing to the cattle like tone-deaf Disney princesses. Songs weren't written by Nashville. Most were made up on the spot, half lullaby, half cowboy therapy. Sleep came in short shifts, 2, maybe 3 hours before it was back in the saddle. Dirt stuck to everything. The heat cooked you alive during the day. The cold froze you stiff at night. And through it all, you just kept riding because the cows sure weren't going to walk themselves. Part 5: Money, Origins, and Equality. So what did cowboys actually earn for all this misery? About $25.40 a month. That's roughly $500–800 today. Not bad for a single man with no rent, but still not worth dying of dysentery every other Tuesday. Some blew it all in saloons on whiskey and questionable company. Others saved, dreaming of one day owning land and cattle. The smart ones played the long game. The dumb ones ended up broke and toothless at 30. But here's the surprising part. Cowboy wages were equal. Didn't matter if you were white, black, Mexican, or Native American. Everyone got the same pay. In the 1800s, that was groundbreaking. And speaking of Mexicans, cowboys wouldn't exist without them. The whole culture, from lassoing cattle to wearing chaps, came from Mexican vaqueros, from vaca, meaning cow. These guys were the original cow wranglers, and their skills spread north as ranching expanded. European immigrants joined in, black freedmen joined in, Native Americans too. The cowboy wasn't one race or nationality. It was a mashup of everyone tough or desperate, enough to survive. So in a weird way, the Wild West was more diverse and egalitarian than most modern workplaces. You all got the same pay, the same beans, and the same chance of being flattened by a stampede. Part 6: Cowboys. Legends and reality. Cowboys weren't the gunslinging supermodels of Hollywood. They were dirty, sleep-deprived, half-malnourished young men who spent their days chasing cows and their nights begging for sleep. But they were also tough as nails, skilled horsemen, and brave enough to stare down chaos with nothing but grit, a rope, and maybe a half-working revolver. They knew cow psychology better than modern therapists. They formed tight-knit brotherhoods on the trail. They played music to cows, told jokes to each other, and lived in a world where death was always one mistake away. And yet, despite the dust, disease, and danger, the cowboy became America's most enduring symbol. Not because the job was glamorous, but because it was hard, unforgiving, and demanded everything a person had. Cowboys weren't mythical heroes. They were real men and some women who smelled bad, swore often, and somehow turned misery into legend. So would you want to be a cowboy? If you answered yes, congratulations, you've either watched too many movies or you really love beans.